As a philosophic form, novels, fiction, offer some advantages over academic articles or essays in that they allow for imaginative work and they allow for complicated questions as answers to questions that are already pretty complicated. At the time that I sat down to write Sara, I had a number of such questions that I felt I could only answer by essentially writing a full novel. In particular, I'd gone through sort of a conventional adolescent rebellion against religion. I grew up in an Orthodox household, went to a black hat yeshiva, and by the time I was done with high school, I just wanted out. I was done. So I went to a secular college. I went to SUNY Buffalo. I stopped keeping kosher. I stopped practicing. I stopped going to synagogue. I became angry at God, all of that good stuff. And after I finished college, I began to try and write my way out of those questions to figure out what rebellion was about. And what I discovered was that writing about characters who were conventionally rebellious just wasn't doing it for me. It wasn't offering me the kind of answers I wanted. It wasn't offering me the sorts of meditations I was interested in. I was also in Tower 2 on September 11th, the World Trade Center. I was actually taking a shower on the 34th floor when Tower 1 was hit, and I was in the stairwell on the 28th floor when my building was hit. And afterwards we relocated to Hartford for several months. I lived in the Hilton there, surrounded by co-workers who were decidedly traumatized and separated from friends and family who'd also been impacted by those events. And what I discovered was that simply living through that and simply talking to friends and family who were impacted, who were there, wasn't really enough to offer me the answers I wanted either about that. And I guess I should also say that at the time I'd become an avid rock climber, and I knew instinctively that something about the sorts of answers I was looking for had to do with the wilderness. In particular, I had the sense that fear that one could grapple with, that was physical, that you'd chosen, was different than fear that was imposed on someone, yet somehow could offer answers about that fear as well. And so I set out to write the story of Sara, a woman who was decidedly not like myself, on a path quite inverse to my own. She moves from a secular household to becoming Orthodox, moves from America to Israel, and though she's impacted both by 9/11 and by terrorism in general, she's at a remove from 9/11 itself. It's her father who's in the World Trade Center and who ultimately is killed in a terrorist attack in Jerusalem that also kills her mother and disfigures Sara. Sara is the diary of Sara when she goes on one last great wilderness adventure as a kind of memorial to her father. She takes his retirement trip, a kayaking journey through the Arctic by herself before she is going to completely abandon her secular life. And on that trip she's racked by guilt, by some notion that perhaps her religiosity has somehow been responsible for her parents' death. And at the same time, she's absolutely dependent upon God and upon her Judaism to allow her to find the motivation to row day in and day out, something absolutely necessary for her to survive. The novel, writing it, reading it afterwards, did the work for me that I wanted it to. It really complicated my relationship to Judaism and my understanding of the kind of questions I'd grappled with before. I hope it can offer you something similar.